we've almost embarrassed other people to tell us something that they know back, because we've just been so good at sharing information with them. It's really worked to our benefit. You know, you would think keeping secrets would be the way to run things, but I've found quite the opposite. And so we've done a brilliant job also of exploiting things that most people, most clubs, most growers discard and throw out, starting with the leaf. The cookies that we're so famous for are made with leaf that is normally discarded, or in some cases the leaf that's after the hash has been made, because now they've got all these funky little machines for shifting hashish off, like the crystals off of the leaf, without using any kind of water or oils and stuff, you know, freezers and all sorts of cool things. Well, there's still lots of good medicine in the leftover leaf. But even still, leaf that people would normally think would be garbage, we've made good medicine out of, in part by combining it with more than one strain, which is something really important when you're making either medicinal products or even smoking a joint, as far as I'm concerned. But it's got this, you know, substantial, you know, benefit when you start to mix up, you know, low-grade herbs together. We've even not only developed products out of the leaf, but now we have our second product made out of the stalk, which is something that people normally throw into their ashtrays and stuff when they're cutting up their buds. But there's still lots of good medicine and lots of good THC in that bud, and we're learning to now make products out of that. And so, in fact, we're actually just on the verge of doing our first ever double-blind studies with what we call our Ryanol capsules, which are little sort of veggie caps with extra virgin olive oil, grapeseed oil that the cannabis has been cooked into. And we call them Ryanol because the guy working in the bakery when we developed them was named Ryan, so Ryanol. I like naming products after the bakers. We have Buddha balls as well, and my one friend Colby Buddha was the baker when I came up with that, so I just named them Buddha balls after him. But yeah, so we're going to have a double-blind study with the Ryanol, and we're going to do one with what we've called Stalkinol, which again is the stalk, just kind of cooked into an oil and then put into these capsules. So we're just on the verge of that. We're quite excited to be doing that. But until this point, we've been experimenting other ways, which has been a hell of a lot of fun, I'll tell you. Yeah, and another example is going to come out in court in this January. I'll get to court in a bit. But Gail's been a wonderful addition to the team because up till about 8 years ago, we developed a handful of products. We had cookies, I had the Ryanol capsules and the Buddha balls I mentioned. We had like a salve and a massage oil, just really the bare bones. And they'd be good for a bunch of general problems, general symptoms. But not everyone's the same. I like to tell people we're like unique strains of humans, just like when you take two plants and make them, you know, come up with a unique strain, well, much like humans. And so, you know, we all have our own problems and challenges, and there's a lot of other good herbs and foods and things that we need to incorporate into our diet. And Gail's done a brilliant job helping to identify the herbs that work very well with cannabis and that would complement and add to what we already have, instead of sort of duplicating some of the same products, or at least the symptoms that the products would help with. And that's been at times on a you know, case-by-case situation. Sometimes, you know, it'd be over a lot of time and research when she would develop products like the arnica oil, for example. But in other cases, like when Sally, one of the members of our club, was going through skin cancer, she was reporting that not only was the pot smoking good for her nausea, but that she had these second-degree burns, or almost third-degree even, from the side effects of the chemotherapy. And the doctor's creams and stuff couldn't do anything. And these burns were literally like 90% of her body was like blistering. But that was the only thing that was killing the cancer. In fact, she killed the cancer with the chemotherapy. And the only thing that stopped the burns was an aloe cream that Gail developed at the club. You know, aloe cannabis combination that cleared it up to the point where she's got beautiful skin. You wouldn't think that she had any of these issues at all. And we're going to rely on Sally's evidence in court, because again, the doctors had no product similar to it. And even though cannabis is legally available, the product line that's in the pharmacies is very, very limited. And so we are really happy that we were able to help her out, and in doing so, put a new product on the shelf for others in that situation and anything close to it. So I ran out of the apartment with, like I say, just a few basic products for about 5 years, and then I got busted up here for sharing joints one week back November 8th, 2000. Seems like a long time ago. And then a week later I got busted for a cookie giveaway downtown, because I love giving away cookies. And I just got a big mouth, and it didn't work out that day. Except we did get a lot of press, and actually getting busted for my cookie giveaway was one of the most successful stunts I've ever done. Because I ended up, amongst other things, having a 5-day jury trial where I had a full jury sitting there listening to all these facts about medical cannabis and cookies and how it's extracted. And I actually used a really weak argument that there was so little pot in it that it was no stronger than hemp food that's legally available. Didn't fly, the jury, but it was a lot of fun. But all the press, immediately from getting busted, started to bring in new members of the club. And so I stopped doing all the sort of frontline work and hired a couple people to deliver or sell medicine and make cookies. And then one of the guys decided to branch off on his own and sell in the apartment downtown, or downstairs that I was in, the little apartment building downtown. That wasn't so smart, because within 2 months the police were all over it, and they came, and sort of 3 months. Anyway, they came and busted him and told me, because we were upstairs, they came at 4:20 on a Friday, and battery ram in the door downstairs. And so we heard this commotion, and members of the club came upstairs telling us that there was a bust happening downstairs. Are you guys okay? After about 10 minutes of smoking pot, we figured we may as well go see what was happening. So I went downstairs with a bag of garbage, at which point Darren Lauer, one of the police officers downtown, told me that they'd been doing surveillance for a full year at Revenue Canada across the street, and that they weren't able to get evidence that I was selling other than for medical reasons, and that the justice of the peace wouldn't grant him a warrant. So they were there to bust the other guy, but they weren't going to bust me, but they wanted me to go get a storefront. They said, there's another Compassion Club in town, and that's what you're doing, go get a store. Ironically, it's easier to get a warrant for a store than it is in a private residence. But really, I don't think that was their goal. I think that they were frustrated. People at Revenue Canada wanted something to be done. It was obvious there was a lot of traffic in the little house, so that was our impetus to move and get a store, which is why I opened it up under Ted's books originally, which really wasn't that smart. I didn't have a lot of time to put things together. And April Fool's Day 2001 was when we had our grand opening of Ted's Books and operated out of there. It was quite the scene, especially about 6 or 7 months into it, when we opened up a small little smoking room in virtually a closet. And there would be people in wheelchairs and stuff like cramped in the back corner of the store on one side, and then the distribution happening in the other. And then I'd be pretending to have a bookstore for the public out front. It was really quite a funny scene at times. Though it was working very well until January 3rd, 2002, one of our members that I cut off for reselling pot brought the police in out of vengeance to shut us down. One of the biggest problems I've had is that I sell cannabis at such a good price, and it's good medicine, that some people think that they can resell it to others and make money off of it. Well, some people do, and we've got to monitor that. In fact, I've had to take over 500 memberships away from people that joined our club that tried to take advantage of it, or were at least thought to be buying it for another friend. It's the most dangerous thing I do. I have my life threatened constantly for it. I actually had someone in the store just last week threatening me and the club. But that's what we have to do in order to keep the police and public off our ass for thinking that we're just somehow an open pot store to anybody that walks in the door. And so we warn people that when they join, they'll lose their membership if they buy for someone else. But a lot of very desperate, sick people do. And you'd think it would be people that would come in and buy an ounce at a time, and you'd see them the next day buying an ounce, but that's not the case. Most of the people I cut off are buying less than $20 worth. Most of the people I've cut off had no money that day and woke up and somebody offered them a joint, a hug, I don't know, something for going and buying the medicine that day. And that is unfortunately the sad reality of our club, is dealing with very sick and desperate people that are risk adverse. They will often seek to take advantage of us. And